Hello authors, I'm Joanne Morrell, children's and young adult fiction writer and author of short non-fiction for authors. Thanks for joining me for the Hybrid Author podcast, sharing interviews from industry professionals to help you forge a career as a hybrid author, both independently and traditionally publishing your books. You can get the show notes for each episode and sign up for your free author pass over at the Hybrid Author website to discover your writing process, get tips on how to publish productively, and get comfortable promoting your books at www.hybridauthor.com.au. Let's crack on with the episode. Hello authors! I hope you're all keeping well in whatever part of the world you reside and listen to the podcast in. Today's interview is with award-winning children's author and illustrator Kylie Howarth, who's chatting to us about speaking at writers' festivals, the various types out there, if they are invitation to authors only, what you are expected to provide and what festivals provide for you, what authors should take into consideration when quoting to appear at festivals, her tips for authors starting out at festivals, time slots, workshops, and much, much more. So in my author adventure this week, there's really nothing to report as I'm still enjoying some downtime, although my next project is percolating in my head. I've been pretty exhausted actually with the day job and kids' activities, which all seem to have come at once, and just the busyness of life in general. But it's good, and I'm certainly not complaining for leading a full life. So if you love the podcast or any of the episodes has helped you further in your author career, you can now pay it forward by buying me a coffee over at www.buymeacoffee.com/thehybridauthor. And that's all capitals hybrid, capital T, capital A on the and author. These links can be found in the show notes and at the top of my social media pages. Or you can leave me a review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. Nothing big, just a line or two to let me and others who write like you know how the podcast is helping further your author career. Let's all support each other. So that's enough from me. Let's crack on with the episode. Kylie Howarth is an award-winning, internationally published children's book author and illustrator from Perth, Australia. She was raised in the country alongside her brother, dog, sheep, several orphaned kangaroos, and one cheeky echidna. Her obsession with animals also extends underwater as she has braved lionfish in Egypt, piranha and pink dolphins in the Amazon, marine iguanas and hammerhead sharks in the Galapagos Islands, and swum with whale sharks, manta rays and humpback whales at Ningaloo, Western Australia. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the Hybrid Author podcast, Kylie.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, wow. Incredible bio. I could undersee this love of animals has maybe steered you into the career you're in. But can you tell us, how did you come to become, a children's book writer and illustrator?
I was a graphic designer in a previous life before having children. So another creative job. Had a fabulous time freelancing in London at one point as well. But then when I came back to Australia and had kids, I just didn't like the idea of sitting in an office from 9 to 5 and not having the flexibility that I needed to look after the babies. And I just started reading my youngest picture books and just fell in love with picture books. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make one of these.
Fantastic.
And off I went.
Yeah. Thank goodness you did. We love all your books. Well, today's topic is on writers' festivals. And, it's for us first-time authors starting out. And we've probably got our first book out or a few books and we're wanting to put ourselves out there, but don't really know anything about writers' festivals. I've heard prior to this that occasionally writers' festivals can be invitation only. Is this something you've come across, or is that more to do with the big ones, or is that true or false? Or
There's such a range of different festivals. There's really small ones, there's really big ones, and they all sort of seem to be run in different ways. So there's not sort of a hard and fast rule for all of them. With the local ones in Western Australia that I've done, most of them I've been invited to. They've contacted me, but it is always different. I know interstate that you need to have a booking agency to get gigs with schools and that sort of thing. And I assume it's sort of a similar setup for the festivals as well. Whereas in Western Australia, we don't necessarily need a booking agent to speak in schools yet. We do have a few good ones coming along. Paper Bird bookstore, they will book a lot of my school gigs, and also the Literature Centre, but also schools will contact me directly as well. So I think that's changing in WA a little bit now. But yeah, it can happen different ways. I actually asked a friend of mine, Franne Lasek, before coming on this podcast about how it works with some of the some of the bigger interstates ones that she's been to. And she indicated that, yeah, you kind of have to be very proactive if you want to get booked for some of the bigger festivals, and usually have to approach them maybe a year ahead. Usually they're planning a year ahead. And I found that with the local ones I've done as well, that they do start chatting to you and book you in a year before the festivals. She said that she has sent in an expression of interest for some of those big festivals, but she's also had her publisher contact them as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you whether the publisher has much to do with it at all. I suppose, is it more like if a book's coming out or approaching as their marketing plan, they'll maybe look at where you would fit in, I guess, with the festivals, and they would approach them as well, the publishers?
Yeah, I think so. I have asked the publisher of my latest book to sort of put me forward for some of the interstate festivals, and they will do that. And they said, get some video and photos of you at your current festivals and send it through so they can use that in their pitch. So that is something that they do.
Yeah.
The problem with interstate ones, I guess, is I feel like you're sort of a little less likely to get booked for interstate ones, because then they need to consider paying for your travel and accommodation as well. If I've got a new book coming out, festivals I've spoken to before, like Scribblers Festival or the Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival, I have their contact details now because we've emailed each other setting up previous festivals. So if I've got a new book coming out, I will often email them and say, hey, this is coming out, maybe we can do something around about this. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So obviously being proactive a year ahead, thinking that way, which is quite hard. But then in saying that, traditional publishing, if you've been contracted for a work, you kind of have an idea what that book is about. And it almost probably takes, how long does it take for a book to come out? Almost a year. So in that time, you could be planning ahead and thinking, oh, I'd fit good here or there. In terms of attending festivals, so obviously if you approach them, you link it back to your book. So you'll say you could do a workshop on, obviously being an author illustrator, you can do art workshops as well as, say, writing stuff. Do you specifically tell them what you can do, or in terms of them requesting you, do they request specific workshops and specific books? Because you've got a few out now. If they want you, it can work both ways. Yeah, definitely. It has worked both ways. For example, when Bush Magic came out recently, that's a picture book, and it's about a young girl who makes a little bush crown out of leaves and feathers with her grandpa. I wrote that in my email to Scribblers and said, hey, we could do something around making a crown as a craft activity. So it's definitely worth sort of coming up with ideas yourself and pitching it to them. But sometimes they will see the book that you've got coming out and they'll come up with their own sort of interesting angles and creative things to do with it as well. No, that's amazing. So if you pitch that to them, then obviously making a little crown out of bush things and stuff, would you be expected to provide that materials for that, or do like for the arts and crafts and the paper? And if we went there if an author went there, well, yourself per se at Scribblers, are they providing the materials for you to do stuff like that? Or
yes, and they've got forms that you fill out to say what you're going to need on the day, and you can just discuss with them. The thing about festivals is, like, they might seem big and scary, but the people running them, they're all very, very lovely, and they are people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
I'm glad you said that.
It's really not as bad or as intimidating as you think it's going to be. And, they will work with you and they'll say, we can provide this, or if you prefer to provide this yourself, you can provide it. So I'll bring sort of items that I would like to bring if there's something sort of really particular I want to seek out for it. But if it's something standard like cardboard, scissors, glue, you just list it down all on the materials sheet and they'll have it all there ready to go when you get there.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a weight off your mind. Have you ever gone to a festival and the things you've needed haven't been provided?
No. I find, yes, at schools. But I find festivals are so well organised. They have to be, because they've got all these different authors coming in. It's just this big, well-oiled machine most of the time. Not all of them, but most of them are really well organised. Yeah. And so they've got all these forms and systems. And if everything you need is written on a form, somebody will be looking at that form before you turn up. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And generally with festivals, obviously, depending, maybe the smaller ones you would just do, depending on how long they run, some can go over a weekend, some like a week, and you maybe just do one appearance, say at a small one, but over a bigger one, if you were there, like I think, have you done the Margaret River Press Festival, and that's over, is that over a week or a weekend, or do you go down for the whole week?
They have a weekend that you can speak at, which is mostly sort of geared around adults, but they will have a few children's activities going on as well. But they will often team it up with 2 weeks worth of visits to all the sort of regional schools in the area.
Right.
So you can end up being away for a good 2 weeks, but it changes every year. And because of COVID, it's sort of changed a bit recently as well.
Yeah, because I was wondering like whether at the festivals you just do one appearance or you're actually booked for a few doing different things because of how long the festival stretches, I suppose.
Festivals would generally try and book you for a few things, because if you've got books that are pitched to different ages, so I've got chapter books and picture books, so they'll often book me for a picture book session and then a chapter book session for older kids. So it makes sense that if you've got an author coming down, particularly if they're paying for some travel and that sort of thing, that they put you in for a few sessions rather than just the one.
Yeah. I would imagine not all festivals do pay for travel, I guess, but if it's local, is that the way of it? Do most?
I think
people
most
pay?
Of them do.
They do
pay for travel. Some smaller ones that have to apply for grants to get authors and that sort of thing, you can sort of work together with the other local authors that are going down, and we'll carpool. For example, we went to Between the Lines in Busselton, and a couple of the authors and I carpooled and we went down together, and they gave me some money towards the fuel because I was the driver. But yeah, you understand that they're working on a limited budget, so you can sort of work out what's best. But other festivals have better budgets and they'll pay for you to have, really nice accommodation and fly you different places. It just depends.
Yeah, I think I've seen on social media, I think it was maybe last year, and it was like Natasha Lister and Josh Langway, or it was maybe a few years ago, it was that Big Sky Festival, and they got flown there, and then they were like flying around some islands, and I was just
they
like,
go to the Abrolhos Island. I've been trying to get that gig for so long. Not that I've done anything to try, but I've been hoping to get the call.
So, I mean, there's things like that just looked incredible. That's obviously a big one, though.
Yeah, that one's amazing. They fly you around the Abrolhos Islands, which is one of my most favourite places. But I recently went there anyway off my own back. So I've got that out of my system. It's okay now.
Well, you would have been perfect for that, I suppose, with your Fish Kid books and all the kind of under the sea picture books and things,
Well, it's run out of the Geraldton Library, I think. Okay. And I had been there for a book week visit for a week. So I think I got ticked off on that list rather than the Big Sky. But you never know.
Oh, gosh. So when it comes to payment and things like that of festivals, is that something that if a festival approaches you or you're approaching a festival, you would expect, say, your travel time, your materials provided, unless you didn't, you wanted to bring specific things yourself, your time obviously in workshopping and presenting. Is there any other things that is added into the payment and stuff in your mind?
Yes. If you're away from home, you should definitely get per diems, like a meal allowance. Sometimes you need to request that. It just depends. And you can negotiate with people and festivals. I find most festivals probably pay, the ones I've been to, a little bit less than my normal school visits, perhaps. I guess because they're dealing with so many authors and they've got a certain budget they've got to work to, and they're also dealing with travel and that sort of thing as well. But definitely your travel should be paid for, and your meal allowance and
accommodation maybe as well?
Definitely accommodation. But that's one way you can sort of make yourself more valuable as well, is for the Margaret River one. I have family down there, so when I pitched them, I said, you won't need to pay for my accommodation because I have somewhere to stay. So I guess that made me more attractive because they didn't have to fork out for the accommodation.
Oh no, that's awesome. And the stuff again you don't even think of, like you just think it's when I'm there, but there's all these other things that kind of add up, I suppose. So generally generally, is there an Australian Society of Authors rate for authors going to festivals? So they maybe should look at that and start and not expect that.
Most festivals will pay your Australian Society rate, ASA rate, generally anyway. Some of them I've found have tried to sort of go under that, and I've had a few conversations to bring it back to that.
Right, yeah.
But it depends. If you're a first-time author and you really just want to get it out there for the experience of it, then, you know, maybe you won't push for some of those things. Maybe you will, but you are entitled to. So
yeah. Well, it's worth knowing anyway. So yeah, you'd have to.
But, you know, if you want to get booked again, you don't want to be difficult either.
That's it, yeah. Oh gosh. Well, so with the festivals, do they pay up front, or is it after the festival, half now, half later, that type of thing? Or
I'm just trying to remember. I think it's generally after you've presented, which is what I prefer anyway.
Yeah.
I really don't like it when people pay me for something I haven't done, with particularly in the climate of COVID and all of this and things getting cancelled.
Yeah.
So I'm more comfortable with that. But yeah, some of them I've invoiced after the festival, but others they will take your details and they pay you without you needing to even invoice them.
Yeah. So the booking agencies and things like that, if they do, does the payments come through them, or do you handle all your invoicing and stuff like that?
I haven't had a festival booking through a booking agency. If you did, I assume that, it would come through them. But so far, all of my festivals have just been booked through me. Yeah.
And booking agencies is more for events, or I know, is it the Paperbird one? Is that actually called a speaking agency? Like for speaking?
Yes, it's called Paperbird Speakers Agency. And I find that's mostly for school visits and things like that.
Yeah. I'll have to get Jen Jackson on to talk about that, I think.
Paperbird are doing so many amazing things, not just selling books. There's so many other aspects to them that is absolutely amazing.
The magazine, the Flight magazine as well. I thought about maybe getting her on for that. The kids magazine, is it the art magazine she's got going?
But they also will, if I'm going to a school that has booked me just through me, I will often say to the school, are you interested in offering signed books, offering parents the opportunity to buy signed books? If so, I can send you an order form and I'll get Paperbird to organise that and they'll send an order form to the school.
Yeah, that's cool.
And bookstores do get involved with different festivals. There's usually a bookstore involved with each festival. So it's worth chatting to them and contacting them about what books you have out as well. Before appearing. Yeah,
well, I was going to say, but the festivals generally, they should have your book there for sale. You would expect that.
They should do, but maybe they're only aware of one. And sometimes you might want to mention other ones that you want there. Or maybe, I'm not really sure how it works, if it's a particular publisher has pitched you for the festival, but you have books with another publisher. I would probably contact the bookstore and say, hey, this is my other book. Can you have that available as well?
That's a good tip there too. So tell us about the festivals you have spoken at and about your books and what you've presented at each. Has there been any favourites, and like you said, you hoping to get to Big Sky one day?
I think it was the second year, 2015, my first book was published. And then the year after that, 2016, I was contacted by Writing WA, and I can't even remember if I applied or anything. I feel like they just contacted me and said, would you like to go to the Asian Festival of Children's Content in Singapore?
That's so
cool. I was like, well, hey, here we go. This is my book career starting. I'm getting contacted and sent over to Singapore already. And it was an amazing experience. It was absolutely fantastic. And I just kind of thought that that's what happened. And I've been waiting for all these international festivals to contact me ever since, and it hasn't happened. The best thing I found about festivals, though, which was a surprise, is my favourite bit is actually getting to meet all the other authors, because authors, like, I love hanging out with the WA authors, but I often don't get an opportunity to meet other people that I've, idolised for so long. And there you are, you're at a festival sitting next to somebody who you've always dreamed of, meeting or being like, and just hanging out like you're, hanging out in the green room, having a cup of tea together. That's the best bit.
Yes,
it's so much fun.
I've heard of the green room. I'm always like,
yeah.
haven't got in there yet.
If I'm booked at a festival, I'll look at, well, my time slot and then circle all this other stuff that I want to go and see while I'm there. But I've actually learned that you can't really see a lot on that day because you'll be then expected to go and sit and sign for books after your session, perhaps. But also you just want to hang around in the green room and chat to other authors as well.
Do you get to, because if you do get a chance to get out and see people, do you have to buy a ticket, or because you're part of the festival, you're allowed to go in and out of the sessions as you like? So that's
generally you get a pass. So maybe this Scribblers Festival coming up on the 18th of September, I'll be there speaking on the Sunday doing 2 different sessions. But the day before, they've got all these amazing authors on the Saturday. So I'll be taking my kids on the Saturday. That's one of my biggest tips for, research before you speak at a festival, or even before you even go out to any school visits. I just went to festivals and just watched other authors just to see what works, what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, you need to be yourself. You can't sort of copy what anybody else is doing because you've got to be authentic to you and your book. But just seeing what sort of worked with the crowd and what didn't was really, really valuable.
Getting ideas, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So what book were you pitching at there, or what book did you get sent over for the Singapore one?
That was for my first book, Fish Jam, my first little picture book.
Did you do a workshop there, or did you do like an art thing? Or
I ended up being thrown into speaking to adults rather than children, which I didn't expect. Which is a little scarier than kids for me, but it was great. And because you're traveling with other authors, because it was international, there was travel time on an aeroplane. I happened to be sitting next to a lady that I met who actually worked with the Perth Festival. And so because I met her, and we actually had a terrifying experience together, having to get up and do live charades drawing thing on stage that we didn't really know we were supposed to be doing.
Oh no.
It was horrendous. Anyway, we got to know each other quite well. So that's, I think, why she contacted me and got me to the Perth Writers Festival. And then she left there and worked for the Scribblers Festival. So I think that's maybe what helped me get my foot in the door there as well. Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, making contacts. And with social media, there's no excuse. You can get involved in the conversation even before you've got a book out or anything. Like you said, you can go to the festivals and you can watch other people, but you can also get involved in the conversations online and connect with people who are involved, or put yourself out there. And definitely who I think, especially in Australia sometimes.
I also think social media, it's great if you do a few school visits. Ask the teachers from up the back of the room to take a few photos of you that you can put up on social media, because I think a festival is more likely to book you if they can look at your social media and go, I can see they've spoken to a crowd before. And the other thing I wanted to say about festivals actually is it may seem intimidating and scary, but if you're a first-time speaker at a festival, they know that, and they don't put you in their major time slot following one of their, huge names. They put you at a quieter time slot in a smaller venue. So most festivals will have several different rooms, and there'll be a venue that holds sort of a smaller amount of people, and then there'll be the room, like the auditorium, that can take a whole heap of people. So they won't book you for that room. Yeah. when you've got only one book out and you're new to it,
Yeah, no, that's good.
They're trying to support you, and they book you to support you as well. They want to support local authors, and they'll sort of guide you through it. So it's not as bad the first time as you think it could be.
No, that's great. And your website as well is great for that. I've noticed on your about or something or other on your website anyway, and you've got lots of pictures of presenting at schools, and I think festivals as well, of the drawing. And is it what's that big shell you use? Is it the conch?
Oh, my conch shell. I play the conch shell. It gets the kids giggling. I've been wondering, though, if I do get an interstate festival next year, now that COVID's finished, I might start pitching to some of these festivals. I don't know if I can travel with it, with the rules, with quarantine. Yeah.
You'll have to put that on your material list. I need a conch shell. Yeah. Provide conch.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell's that? Yeah. Oh no, that's I saw you do that at oh my goodness, the CBCA.
Night of our stars.
Yes, the Night of Our Stars, and that was fantastic. And kids would absolutely love that, So that's even a fantastic idea for people.
I was talking to myself. I don't think I spoke about my book before that performance very well, because the whole time I'm having this argument in my own head going, are you really going to pick up this show and play it in front of 150 librarians? Are you really going to do that? Or are you going to chicken out and not do it? So I was just having this internal I took a risk and it paid off.
Yeah. Do you think it's all about the book though? It's definitely going to be about part entertainment as well, surely.
I'm noticing a lot of people getting very, very entertaining. I guess is not really a word. If you haven't got that background, bring what you can from your own personality and the theme of your books. There's no point jumping up and down and doing handstands and that sort of thing if your book is a sad novel or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, whereas if you've got these loud, exciting books, then be loud and exciting. But I think you've really got to represent what your book's going to be about, so people know what sort of book they're going to get when they buy it after meeting you.
Yeah, and exactly that. Be true to yourself.
Hence the conch shell, because I've got all these sea creature facts in my fish kid chapter books. They're full of sea creature facts, so that's why I get up there with a shell, and I often take a shark egg and show all the kids a shark egg as well. So we've been to
many of your launches, but the fish kid one, always remember, I think, was it the rugby club?
Yeah.
And you had like a whole person come with all these animals, wasn't it? And
and sea creatures, and there was a little sea cucumber that looked just like a sausage, and when he picked it up out of the water, it squirted over all the kids, and they all screamed. It was brilliant.
It was fantastic and so entertaining. And the thing is, you can generally see your passion for that sort of stuff come through, which gets everyone excited, and it's very engaging.
The reason I'll often book sort of another form of entertainment when I have a book launch is because often your head is down signing books, and so people need something to do while you're doing that. Otherwise they just end up lining up and being bored. So if there's a craft activity or something like the sea creatures to look at least they've got something to do while you're busy signing somebody else's book.
No, that's cool. So back to the topic of festivals, just wondering, how long is generally a session, would you say? Like for a workshop, is it like an hour or talking thing usually?
Sometimes I usually find they're a little bit shorter when you're up on stage talking, but if you have a workshop, it's generally an hour or maybe a little bit more. So for the Scribblers Festival coming up, I've got one session it's called Hold On To Your Undies. It's for my new book, Koalas Stole My Undies, and that one's going to be a half-hour session, whereas I've got another session, Naturally Creative, which is one of the ones that kids need to book into, and that's a paid one, and that goes for an hour, and we're going to be working together doing some crafts. So it can vary.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we've talked about the ins and outs of festivals, what authors can sort of expect in terms of quoting or being approached, and kind of how to be at festivals and things like that. You've already shared so much, but do you have any other tips for authors who are looking to start out speaking at festivals?
A few tips. I always, if I'm traveling somewhere, even if it's just down to Margaret River, which is like 3.5 hours, I'll always travel the day before. Some schools and some festivals will try and get you to travel that morning. I find travel just zaps my energy. So, and I can't get that, on stage festival energy if I've just driven for 3 hours. So I would always travel the day before if you can.
That's a good point.
Sometimes,
what if something happens as well? Like there's a breakdown or
exactly.
That'd be so stressful. And then you get there and you'll be like,
Exactly. Yeah. But it means that they have to pay for another night of accommodation. I guess that's why sometimes I'll try and avoid it. But for me, I just need that night's sleep to get that energy. What else did I have as tips? If you get asked to do a festival, say yes. That's my other tip. And worry about it later. Like you might go, I don't know if I'm up for this. Just say yes and worry about it later, because you gain so much out of doing it. You gain readers, you gain experience, and you gain the experience of chatting to other authors, which really is the best bit about festivals.
Were you nervous? Like, what was the first festival you ever spoke at? Were you really nervous to attend that?
I think it was the Perth Writers Festival.
Oh, fantastic. That's such a good one to start at.
Yeah. I think I was nervous because that's quite a big one for my first one. But I had done a few school visits, and I spoke to them and said, hey, can I please have a pass for the events that are happening the days prior, so I can just sort of see what's happening, get used to the venue. So I think sometimes if you can see the venue, that takes another worry out of your mind. If you can see the setup and how the seats are going to be and how many people are going to be in there, it's sort of one less thing that's a surprise on the day.
Do you get to, like if you are talking to bigger people or you have a headset or you have a microphone, say with technology and things, do you get to test that beforehand, or how does that work?
I guess it varies again. with every festival, but for example,
do you bring your own? Do you bring
with
your own
one
stuff?
coming up, they prefer you to send in your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But I prefer to actually show my slides on the iPad because then I can sort of zoom in and zoom out and do these other things that I want to do. So we've discussed coming in, I think, a week prior and testing the setup so that we know it's going to work on the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because tech is my biggest worry. No matter where I go, I can't sort of relax or talk to anyone until the tech's working. So that's the first thing I'll do. I won't even get my books out or anything until I know the tech's working.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Sorry, I threw you off your tips for authors list there.
I think that was mainly it. Well, that's another tip to test your tech before you go. Yeah.
And do you allow, like with your sessions and stuff, do you allow like a question and answer thing? Is that always a factor or not really when it's like a workshop or?
Well, it depends on the age. I do always allow time for question and answer. I think that's really good because sometimes you can't really time yourself perfectly, but if you've got that buffer, you know, your questions can go for 2 minutes if they need to, or they can go for 8 minutes if you need them to. But the funny thing is somebody once advised me very early on, never mention when it comes to question and answer, don't sort of say anything about pets or football. Particularly if you're speaking to kindy or pre-primary or year ones, because then everyone will put their hand up and tell you about their pet. And I think James Foley said once that, the kids will all put their hand up and go, oh, my pet died. And, you know, it's just...
Oh, my goodness.
So, and with the little guys, it might be question time, but you'll always get a statement. They'll never actually ask a question. So that's often quite fun.
Yeah. Oh, how gorgeous. Yeah. So with the Scribblers Festival that's coming up, when did they approach you for this year's festival? Was it a year ago or was it like 6 months or?
I can't quite remember, but I know there's a period of time where you don't sort of say that you're going to be at the festival. They want to announce it at a certain time. So it was quite a while ago, and then they announced it all maybe a month or so ago, I think. Yeah. But back on the question and answer thing, for a short session like the Scribblers Festival and with a large crowd for maybe my 30-minute session, I probably won't do question and answer for that.
Okay.
But if it is like a long one, then I probably would. Yeah. With all these things, every festival is different. So nothing is sort of set in stone, and some things you can do at one festival but not at the other. So I guess you've just got to find out as much about that festival as you can before you speak at it. Maybe chat to other author friends and find out about it before you're there, just to get some tips as well.
So research obviously plays a big part in it. Yeah, getting yourself familiar with the running of the festival, I guess, and the way of things. And then before anything, above all, check the tech.
Yeah. But the thing about festivals, they've often got a person that sort of looks after you and they'll walk you to where you need to go. And because I'm very good at getting lost. So I really appreciate it. And they'll take you from the green room. They'll give you a time. It's so well organized generally that there's little margin for any error or anything to go wrong because they've just covered everything, and they feed you as well. There's always food in the green room. That's the other good thing about the green room. There's always good food.
What else is in there? Why is it called the green room? Why is it called the green room? What is it?
I don't know.
What's the other room? There's like a room like important musicians stay in, but like for authors and stuff, it's called the green room. That's why I'm like,
I think it's with TV and everything. I think it's come from there, hasn't it? They have green rooms before you walk out onto a TV show.
I know they've got some room. Yeah, I know, but I was always like, I wonder what's in there. But maybe some champagne. But so just stay in that room, and someone will come and find you and take you to where you need to go. Generally,
you'll get a sheet run list, and they'll say you need to be in the green room at this time, and it's usually maybe half an hour before your session. And then somebody will walk you from there to where you're going to be presenting, and then they'll walk you back to the green room afterwards. And you get looked after well.
Are you generally told, because they would know how many people have booked in the session, are you told roughly how many people to expect in the session?
Yeah,
there's obviously a cap, but you will know.
Yes. Yeah. And if you haven't found that out, you can always ask them, and they'll always let you know how many people have been booked so far. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Fantastic. So tell us about your upcoming book launch, and obviously what your Scribblers Festival workshops are. And please tell us everything.
Well, I've got a book launch for Koala Stole My Undies. That's coming up on Father's Day, which I think is the 4th of September. That's going to be at the Grove Library. And then there's Scribblers Festival the weekend after that. So I'll be speaking at the Schools Day on Thursday, and I'll be talking about bush magic, which is a book that came out this year, a picture book. And then on the Family Day, I'll be there on the Sunday, or I'll be there on the Saturday watching all my friends and all the other authors speaking, and I'll have my kids there. And then I'll be speaking on the Sunday, and I've got a 10 a.m. session, Hold On To Your Undies, which is going to be quite exciting because there's going to be a koala on the stage thieving undies while I'm on stage.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's going to be really fun.
And that something you prepared or the festival did?
That was my idea to, have somebody in a koala suit, but they followed it all up and they've sourced the koala suit and everything.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then at 12:30, I've got a workshop, which is Naturally Creative. The Hold On To Your Undies one, that one's a free session anyone can go to, but the Naturally Creative one you need to book into. And we're going to be using nature to do some really interesting artworks with that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And for the rest of the year, or thinking about festivals next year, is your mind somewhere for next year? Wondering whether you'll pitch these people coming up or festivals next year?
I have asked my publisher, a Firm Press, with Koala Stole My Undies. I've let them know about the Scribblers session I'm doing and the idea for that. And I've asked them to pitch that to a few different festivals. And they've asked me to send them photos once I've done the festival as part of their pitch. Hopefully that might turn into something. Yeah, probably just the usual local ones. My mind's in Book Week at the moment. I'm going to have several weeks of Book Week talks coming up soon as well. So a lot of talking.
Yeah. Oh, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and expertise, Kylie. That's been absolutely incredible. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you and your work in and offline?
Well, all those events that I just spoke about, they're on my website, kyliehowarth.com. Howarth is Howarth. And I've got an events page on there that you can find the Scribblers Festival and the book launch information. I'm also on Instagram. I quite like popping things on Instagram. It's Kylie_Howarth. And on Facebook, I'm Kylie Howarth Creative. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Kylie. Looking forward to seeing you at Scribblers.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
So there you have it, folks. The magical Kylie Howarth sharing her incredible expertise on what us authors can expect and how we can get started in the world of writers' festivals. And Kylie is appearing at Scribblers Festival, which is a festival here in Perth. And she's also got a book launch coming up weekend for Father's Day. The links to Scribblers Festival and Kylie's workshops and her book launch will be in the show notes. Next time on the Hybrid Author Podcast, we have entrepreneur, public speaker and author Mariam El Hooley chatting to us on why the best time to chase your dreams is right now. Have an amazing writing, publishing and promoting week. That's it for me. Bye for now. That's the end for now, authors. I hope you're further forward in your author adventure after listening, and I hope you'll listen next time. Remember to head on over to the Hybrid Author website at www.hybridauthor.com.au to get your free author pass. It's bye for now.